live. Should be live. We should hear echo. Hear echo. Can you say something? Hear
Echo
Can you say
test.
something?
Testing for echo.
Echo test.
Are we live yet? Oh, it's just turning into live now. I can see the little buffer thing.
Yeah, we're live, but you know what? Like we're totally alone. But never mind, we're recording it and we'll use it. You know. Anyway, this is just like a short introductory. I mean, short for those who might be watching it for us.
Echo test. Testing for echo.
Echo.
Are we live yet? Oh, it's just turning into live now. Let's see the little buffer thing.
I know we're live, but you know that's okay because it's from the page where the video is embedded. Connor, first, sorry for what was happening for the past hour, but
It's okay. It's minor technical troubles.
this is also good for me, to test everything. I'll try to do as many streams like this as possible, just to have less problems when the event starts. So yeah, first of all, thank you for joining the list. I really appreciate it. IFCC 2020 online, it's a bit different experience than what the real thing is, but it's a new experience, and every new experience is actually a good experience, I guess.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to be a part of it this year.
So I have prepared some questions, and of course, as you can imagine, the first will be about let's start with your past. As a good introduction about who you are, where do you live, and all this thing.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Connor Sheehan. I'm a concept artist based in England at the minute. I currently work in the video game industry. I kind of got into games from it's just something I knew since the start that I wanted to do. Is that it's kind of like that age-old story of you grow up playing games and then you get that one game that dictates to you that it's something that you can actually do for a living. It's something more than just a game you're playing. I used to have one of my mates come around all of summer, and we used to be playing all these different games, from Need for Speeds to the Grand Theft Autos to all of that. But then once I actually entered the virtual space of MMOs and stuff like that, that's really the time that I thought to myself, oh, this is something completely different. When you just join a game and you're immersed in a world, and then from there you're like, oh, this is something I want to get involved with. So from there, I kind of looked at school, and school wasn't that interesting to me. Art was vaguely, but I was never really good at art at all. So I went through school just not really enjoying myself and not really knowing what I wanted to do, but just still had that passion for games during them years. So once I got to what we have is sixth form, which is just before you go off to university, that's when I found a 3D games art course at Hertfordshire University. And from there I was like, oh, okay, 3D, great. How do I do it? And then I looked and saw that the grade needed to be you need to get a certain amount of grades. And then from there, I had to kind of sort myself out and get them grades to get into this course. And then that course was a 3D games art course. So I joined wanting to do 3D art rather than concept art. So that's probably why a lot of my work is based in 3D. It's because I'm more comfortable starting with 3D that way and then moving through my designs thinking in a 3D space than 2D. So I moved into concept art during my years there. I kind of then from university got a job at a small indie studio in Leamington Spa in England. Maybe 3 people max. And then I was kind of like a generalist there for a good while, working on my concept skills in the kind of interim, in your downtime, your leisure time. And then from there, I kind of went freelance for a year. It's that kind of freelance space where you're sort of part-time working on your skills and progressing that forward. And then I joined Automaton in Cambridge and worked on Maverick's Proving Grounds. Probably the bigger project that I worked on at that point. That was going really well for 2 years, I think, almost. And then unfortunately Mavericks kind of went under, and we didn't really get to release what we'd worked on. But I had a really good time as a concept artist there. That was my first big role. When you get your foot in the door, that I felt like that was my time. So from there, I once that went belly up, I started to work with the Probable. They hired quite a lot of the automaton team, and I've been there since.
So I mean, I missed because I'm fixing some technical issues
Yeah, that's
again.
fine.
I missed. How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. Okay, so
Yeah, still
you
quite young.
you already been involved in a lot of things at this young age.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of one of the lucky ones that managed to get a job out of university because it was so competitive at that time, and especially if I wanted to go into concept art, there was no way I was able to do that at that point. I kind of had to learn more skills to get myself in as a generalist, and then move into concept art. It's something you can't really just jump into from that point.
So how? What about your colleagues who went to school with you and who are also interested in concept art? Are they having any luck?
More so now, actually, because I still keep in touch with the lecturers from the university, and back then it was probably maybe out of 200 students, probably like a tenth wanted to do concept art or something like that. So in our kind of project groups that we did, a lot of them have moved on to work in visual effects. Like you've got people from some of my projects that are in ILM now, the Mill from Creative Assembly.
Oh,
They
mill.
they
I know. Well, when I was young, like the mill, because I was in started working in advertising, and the mail was like, oh, their commercials, their
yeah.
videos. It was like, wow. Um,
Yeah, so they kind of after university spread out everywhere because the course itself was a very generalist course. Like you kind of got to
yeah.
do everything from 2D animation all the way through to like rigging and modeling, 3D art, and all that stuff. So concept art wasn't really looked at that point, but nowadays it's more of a thing to do.
Yeah. So this here, what we see now on screen, is your intervention for the IFCC Online 2020. A
Yes.
fantastic visual. I really, really love it. I had the privilege to watch the video. I was, very like surprised about, you know, even more how you talk and explain things. So I think one day you'll be like really, really good teacher.
Oh, that's good.
Uh,
That's good to know. I always feel like I keep repeating myself in these things. Uh,
yeah, I mean, what I like about the process in the video, I mean, if you follow it, you could easily like recreate what you did,
mm.
and but then again, it looks so advanced. So, can you tell us a bit about the story behind this image and what is it about and the techniques used?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so like I mentioned, most of my work comes from working in 3D as a base anyway. I think that's what would you say in the past 5 years that's become quite staple in concept art now, where people are using 3D in their work. They're using all these cool and different programs, and that it's not just relegated to using 2D. Because of the hour slot, I didn't want to go ahead and do like a whole, oh, this is how I work from 2D, this is how I do the 3D modeling, this is how I do this and that. So in the stuff I've actually done for the IFCC, I kind of wanted just to hone in and concentrate on one aspect of my process, and that is that once I've got a 3D model, how I actually take that very basic 3D render and how I paint on top of it to make it look the way that I have the series looking. Is that kind of ethereal, lost edgy, painterly look. Because a lot of times you've got a lot of this kind of resources to look in photo bashing and making stuff photo real, but not a lot of stuff that goes from 3D to painterly looks. So that's something I wanted to focus on in this kind of like segment that we've got coming up. I could actually, yeah. So with this piece, it's actually from my kind of personal project that I'm making called Below the Salt. And if people haven't even like looked at my portfolio or they don't know what Below the Salt is, Below the Salt is a project that I've been working on for quite a few years now. I think I started it 2 years ago when I was at Automaton, and it's an exploration into an alternate world where we have a story of a race of enigmatic Lovecraftian creatures that I've called the Column. And the Column in this story have rose from the depths of the ocean to make their claim on the Earth. And during this time, there's been countless wars being held all over the globe and loads of different fronts. But at this point in the story, there's a stalemate, and the world has been kind of fragmented into loads of different territories. So with this project, I'm kind of telling the first story in the form of a cinematic novella, where I'm writing a full 100-page story, and I am doing a concept painting on every
400
page.
pages story.
No, 100. Yeah, no, 100. A full 100 page, 400 pages. That will take me a decade at this rate. A full 100-page story with a concept painting on each one. Maybe that's something I'll regret down the line that I've said that I'm going to do a concept painting on each page. But yeah, the story takes place in a rural British village, so stuff that's quite close to me here that I've grown up around. So there's that kind of nice personal expression of Britishness that you just don't really see in a lot of stuff nowadays, really. But yeah, it's taken a long time with writing, not having done writing before, learning about screenplays, like act structure, magic systems, like learning all of that, writing the story, and then doing a full concept painting for every page. At the start, I think I've kind of bitten off more than I can chew, to be honest. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to push forward and get it done.
Well, that's amazing. So, when did you start with this?
About 2 years ago, when I was at Automaton, I started it. It kind of like started as a design exploration where I really liked Victor Antonov's stuff. You know what he's done for like Half-Life and Dishonored. And you can probably see it in the Below the Sword stuff. But I kind of liked to look at what he looked at. So when I looked down the kind of rabbit hole of this, I looked at an architect called Tobias Woods. And when you look at his work, it's very like post-war designs, architecture that way, and it's just I was so inspired, and I wanted to try and do a design that way. And then from there, I've kind of gone, okay, maybe I'll do another design. Okay, maybe this is a world. Okay, maybe there's a story here. It's that kind of leapfrog into different ideas.
You'll have to provide me with some links with the people that you mentioned here, because I always ask about art. I ask my guests about the artists who influenced them, and are there any others that you would mention?
For like inspirations. So many, but the main ones would be like I'm gonna murder his name, but Zdzislaw Beskiński. My girlfriend's Polish, and she keeps trying to teach me and keep messing it up. So
he ended tragically.
It's sad. But it's just his whole work, like that ethereal stuff is something that I really am drawn to. The way he has like all the lost edges and the painting aspects of it.
What I like about this kind of things is that it's like he invented the world of his own in his paintings, but it's like he didn't care too much about stuff like anatomy or it's just like he just want to put you in this weird dimension, in this weird mood, so it's kind of magical. Like, it's very dark, but it's amazing, I don't want to I wouldn't like to be how do you say this, sent in this world and spend any time there, because it's like really 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 scary at the same time, but it's amazing, the imagination. And when you think of it, back then, like from the medieval times, there were some painters who were like different than others and who are doing stuff from their imagination, but still, when you think of it, it's much different now for us in this time of internet, where you can like be inspired by many artists or find references just with few clicks, so I think the process back then to just make a oil painting was like totally different. We would probably spend like a few days drinking coffee, maybe writing down some ideas, doing some sketches, then you start slowly, and But yeah, I love his work as well.
Yeah, it's one of them ones where it's like you said, you don't actually want to go to where he's painting, but it's something that's just draws you towards what he does. I find that a lot, like you said about the anatomy, something about them kind of paintings when they do break the rules of anatomy, that it's just there's something enticing about it to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Other inspirations. So we got Basinski. I really like his stuff. Libius Woods, architectural, like all that design stuff, and obviously Jablonski is you could probably see his kind of like the treatment and the way that he does the shapes is just such a big influence on what I do. So it's these kind of artists that I like to look at. Obviously, I've mentioned Victor Antonov as well. It's kind of this whole project came about where I said to myself, if someone gave me X amount of money, like unlimited money, what game world would I make? So then I combined all of these different things of like all these artists, all these games that I like, and smushing them together to make this one thing that I want to explore. So that's where it all kind of stemmed from that way.
Have you noticed the recent announcement of the game by Vitaly Bulgarov and other mates of his called Mortal Shell?
Yes, I saw him. I saw that shared on the social medias, and because Vitaly does all of his hard surface stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm so interested to how he did the fantasy stuff because it's more organic and all the shapes aren't necessarily like hard surface.
But the other guys on the team are also amazing artists. I mean, he's the most famous because like we all know him because of his like out of this world designs, that he does. But other guys are like also really really amazing. The Anton Gonzalez and what's the third guy? Dimitri Perkin or something like that. I'm probably butchering his name, but I mean well. So they're all amazing artists. I was in contact with Anton Gonzalez today because I wanted to talk about the project and his possible involvement in the online program as well, and the environments he did for the game are like really fascinating, so definitely check him out as well.
I'll send you some links. You send me some links.
Yeah.
We have a little trade,
and we'll share it with everyone. So are you joining any art challenges, for example art station stuff?
Art challenges. I did the Wild West one ages ago.
How did that go for you?
Really well. I mean, I totally underestimated how much time that would take me. Especially when I was working at Automaton at the time, and then juggling that, and then juggling Below the Salt, and then doing the challenge was like, okay, this might be a bit too much on my plate in a minute. But it was actually really enjoyable being involved in the whole community for a month, like seeing everyone's ideas, talking. It's nice to have that kind of shared goal that everyone had. But I haven't done a lot of challenges lately, just because I'm so preoccupied with like Below the Salt stuff that when I get home I don't really have a lot of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, my only advice would be stick to the project that you the concept that you made, and don't do anything else until you finish it, because I'm the expert in starting projects and never finishing them. So because like just too many ideas, and then you're so like pumped, and wow, this will be a great story, great, I don't know, all the things I started, like from short stories to video games to, I don't know, what was the last one. I mean, I do finish some of them, but some are just like the ideas that I built the whole like websites for and whatnot, and started writing, but then just life takes you away to some other places, and then you kind of forget about it for a year or two, and like, oh, what was that I was doing? So definitely just stick to what you're doing and don't do anything until you like done.
Like our technical difficulties, Marco. I am so far in now that I don't think I can turn my back on it.
No, don't. I mean, the reason why I mentioned the Mortal Shell a few minutes back was I was actually amazed that like few friends came together to organize something so complex and actually managed to finish it. So it's because it's really hard, to finish something like a video game. Even even when you have a company that everyone is on pay, it's a hard thing. But imagine like three guys who are doing it, like, or probably there are more people on team, but who are doing it like, after the work, and having their own lives next to it. So and then they manage to finish something which is so complex.
Yeah,
Really,
I didn't know it was like just a group of friends, to be honest.
Yeah, I just found out today that they know each other like for a long time from a long time ago. So
They probably work really well together then.
Obviously,
Yeah.
it shows. So yeah, something that we discussed already, but I'll bring it out. The some elements of your designs, which I've noticed are that you like, at least in the recent ones, which can be seen our station portfolio, and which are all related to your story. Is like these like metal plates that you're using, and I really love it. It looks like so brutal. I wrote to you. It reminds me from the a long time ago we had like a war here, and I remember there was lack of like you didn't have like all this military stuff produced for war. Then people will transform buses and I don't know what, like cars, into these vehicles with the thick metal plates, all around them, which kind of looked funny, but at the same time like really scary. It's like it's like mechanic orcs.
It's interesting that you mentioned the war aspect of it all, because the kind of shape language of these big metal plates, it's something that when I looked at Woods' work, is that he kind of took it to the level of when there was a war, or it's kind of this post-war architecture, that once there's been all this kind of demolition or destruction, is that he uses these big, not really like the words being symmetrical or like regular shapes. They're very odd, they're very weird shapes, and then he uses them to reconstruct a building. And in some of his talks, he talks about like how a room is a room because you define it to be its purpose. So you walk into a bedroom, it's only a bedroom because you have decided that's where you sleep. So when he creates all these spaces, there's all these really random shapes that are so undefinable. And that's something I was really interested in. And it's something I used in my practice for like design language as well, where you have usually have that kind of design ratio of like 70% big shapes or 20% medium and then 10% really small or something like that. It's something I really wanted to get across in these designs, where the big metal plates take up a good majority of the designs, and then when you look into the fine details, there's a lot of detail there. So the metal plates really came from that kind of exploration, and something I've kind of got a shape language for now as I go forward with the project. It's kind of snowballing that now I've mapped out so much of the design of the characters and the world and the architecture. When I design something new or something that I haven't done yet, it goes a bit quicker because I know the shape language. So it's that kind of element. And I mean, with the story as well, the metal is a very specific material that they use, and I go through in the actual tutorial that I've done for the event that it's all oceanic stuff. So there'll be like barnacles and there'll be like rust on it, and it's just a really cool exercise and treatment of materials for me at the same time as a design exercise.
Can't wait to see that. I mean, I guess we'll have to repeat this kind of this type of a talk that we're doing today, just because I really like talking with you about your process. I really, I mean, I'm just like in contact with too many artists because of the work I do for the event, of course, but so it's kind of hard. It's really hard to follow anyone like every day, because but yeah, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I really wanna know more about the story and how it will develop. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I
I'm
mean, I'm
working
working
on.
on.
I hope within the next month or two to have my first draft of the story done because I'm not a writer.
Please let me interrupt you.
Yeah,
Interrupt. I just want to check again something with the sound
yeah, sure.
because just a second. Okay, so can you also help me out just to confirm that you hear yourself in the stream? On the
Yeah, I can hear myself. I think there's a bit of an echo. Is it, or is that my end?
It was echo,
Yeah.
and now let's see now what will happen.
Oh, it's fine now.
Okay, it looks like it's works, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry for this because I realized that there might have been an echo at some point when I turned on your camera in the stream. So, and I have noticed that we have another audio. I wish this happened when we were trying to solve the problem back then.
Yeah.
But okay. Uh, anyway, yeah, please continue. Sorry for
Sorry.
interrupting.
Yeah, I was just saying that how much of an awful writer I am. No, I'm just. This is something that I wanted to learn as well as doing the writing like course and stuff like that. So I kind of ordered different books. I sat and watched a lot of lectures on YouTube, all the free resources out there now. So I've kind of got to the best of my ability an area that I can say, oh, okay, I can kind of write a story. So I'm completing my first draft very soon, maybe in a month or two. That I could send to you if you wanted to
Yeah, of
have a
course.
proofread. That'd be great. But yeah, so I've got maybe I'd say a quarter of the paintings done for it. I'm kind of mapping them out in my head. There's a few that I know what I want to do with, like the one I've done for the IFCC. I knew that I wanted this piece to be what it is. Like I knew I didn't need to expand or explore a lot. There's a few in my head that I have for the story already, but some paintings I spend a lot of time working out what I actually want to show on this piece because it kind of needs. I want it to match up with the story on the page, like the page of writing. But sometimes it's a struggle because I don't really want to illustrate the action of something that's happening. I want it to look more like a concept piece than an actual key art piece. But sometimes you need to do a bit more of a key art painting rather than a environment design painting.
Yeah, I can imagine. How is all this? I mean, we'll get back to art, but I just wonder, like, how this all affects your private life, and
Oh,
do you
like a schedule.
do you have enough time for your private life?
Um, so usually day to day, I'm quite of a homebody anyway. I'm not too fussed about going out and all that stuff. A lot of my friends are the same because we grew up doing the same thing. So we're always online playing games together, which is kind of like a blessing in disguise. So usually my routine, if I start work at 9, I'm usually in the office at 7:30 or 7:45, and then I spend about an hour and a half working on Below the Salt. I spend my lunch hour working on it, and then when I go home, I work on it till about 10ish, and then from there, I sleep.
Yeah.
I fit dinner in between, but most of the time, in my leisure time, I'm thinking about or working on Below the Salt. So it's kind of like a big habit at this point to be working on it so much. And I'm very fortunate to have a group of friends and a girlfriend and family who understand how much it means to me to be able to put work into it. So they're very supportive of the whole thing. I can only imagine what it'd be like if they weren't.
Yeah, I think that's like very important. I mean, in some periods of life, if you decide to be an artist, and probably in this early age, something that can happen that if especially if you're like a freelancer, that you're
Mm.
just not getting any job, so it's kind of, it's a good thing to have maybe someone who can like at least help you out for a month or two.
Yeah.
So because the thing is, if the situation is like some guys have and girls, where they have to get a job, and if they're not like really determined, that they'll go back to art, or have doubts, it can really happen. Time flies, and it can really happen that you just end up doing something else.
Mm.
Uh, we This is why I think that like it's very important to have like support from your closest people.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like mom, dad, partner, whoever. So
Yeah. 100%. I mean, when I left the indie studio and I was like, okay, the next job I get, I definitely want to be a concept artist. I want to get my foot in the door. I just need to sit down, maybe spend a year working on it. And my parents were like, come live here. It's fine. We'll provide for you until you get to that point. So that is how much privilege and like support I had, was to be able to do that. And I know some people don't actually have the opportunity to do that. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
I always think like that parents, they always mean well, and you know think about what's best for their kid. And
Mm,
so, and I can understand that some of them are just like, because they have no connections with the art world or artists themselves, so they just too afraid, because they think, like, oh, he'll be hungry or she'll be hungry, and we have to stop this crazy idea of becoming an artist, so uh, of course it doesn't make sense, because at some point, if he or she sees that doesn't work, there'll be other jobs to do, but I can understand the
yeah,
concern, that some parents
a
have.
hundred percent, 100%. Because it's kind of that the stereotype of a starving artist, right? Where it's such a different world now, though. But I was quite lucky in the fact that my mum and dad are very aware of the industry, in so much that my dad loves films, he loves games. He's the one who got me into it. He gave me my first Super Mario 64 and kind of was my gateway. And I mean, I'm even named after John Connor from Terminator. So at
So
that point,
like actually, like when we were trying to establish the connection in the last, already now it's like probably 2 hours. So I was like saying your name like for, I don't know, like 50 times, Connor, 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 Connor. And I was like, and I wanted to make some jokes with like Terminator Connor guy, because
yeah,
just recently I watched one of the Terminator sequels, but I was like, okay, he'll probably say, oh yeah, I heard this one for the first time, so I didn't do it.
no,
But really,
no,
so yeah,
absolutely,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So that's the kind of that's the background I come from. Is that dad just loves he loves his films, he loves his games. I mean, he was so supportive of me going into this industry because of that. I mean, he always regretted not going into that industry himself.
So he also has like some artistic, let's say, something artistic in him.
Yeah, no, he can't draw. He can't do anything artistic, but he has that love for it. It's all the same.
Oh, then he must be proud of you.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. He's very much a driving force in what I do a lot of the time. Um, so yeah, he's excited for the book as well. I'm always sending him little updates and.
Maybe you can put him in the book as a character, like
Oh, I plan to.
with a different name.
Yeah, I mean, I plan to. I mean, in one of the latest images, I love the kind of things that these artists do. You know, when they leave like little Easter eggs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And usually a lot of the like shop names or something like that, I would just put my friend's name in there or something, just because it's funny and a
But
little
I think
joke.
this makes sense because it can really help you a lot. So because you can you can imagine what would your dad or any other person act in this kind of environment, in this totally changed environment on the planet. I mean, recently, now, for example, we have the situation with the COVID-19. Is it
Mm,
19? Yeah. Uh, then we also had an earthquake here, like a few weeks back.
yeah,
Which, like, like whatever you talk about the day before, it just doesn't matter. When this hits, you just,
Yeah.
we all act like animals, like instincts, So it would be like really interesting, I mean, it makes sense to add people into the stories, of course, with totally different names. It doesn't even have to be a human. It can be like a monster with the characteristics of someone but it can really help you out to understand like how that character will act in the story,
Yeah,
so
100%. Yeah, I mean, one of the characters is totally inspired by my grandma. But I'm very wary of like naming these characters because I don't want them to name. I don't want to name the character something of my friends' names or anything like that. Because if they end up dying, they're like, "You killed me." Like,
yeah,
do you know what I
you,
mean?
you
I don't.
you don't say that. You don't say
Yeah,
it. You just keep it for yourself. So
yeah.
um, let me yeah, do any I mean, you probably sit a lot in front of a computer, of course. Do you do any exercises and that kind of stuff, or are you
Um,
just like too
I,
young to worry about these stupid
no,
things?
I'm very aware because I'm very aware of like posture and stuff like that, and it's something that everyone kind of it's in the back of your head saying, "Oh, your back's going to get screwed up. You're going to get arthritis and all that stuff." I mean, at the start of this year, me and my friend we used to go swimming like 2, 3 times a week. We did really well, and then we kind of just, when you just like drop out of it,
Yeah,
and then
I
all
know.
this
I'm
COVID
an
stuff
expert.
happened.
Like I'm like 15 years older than you, so I already know. I mean, I can be you from the future, telling you, like the boring old guy, telling you what you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Dead advices. But I mean, I would definitely recommend anyone, get it to become your habit. And just repeat it every day because it really makes a difference. And what you're saying, yeah, I remember I start doing something like an exercise, and then I do it like for a few weeks, then some big job comes, and then I've totally, I don't have time for it, and then the job is over, but I still avoid, training for another couple of months, so, but if you kind of make it a habit to do it at least like 15 minutes a day, it can it can literally change your life after, because I know some guys who are doing like concept art and 3D and animation. They're so strict about doing their trainings. They're
Mm.
doing judo, aikido, karate, whatever. MMA, uh, Krav Maga, whatever, and they do it like every day, or just running, jogging, and they do it every day, and you see those guys, they're super organized, uh, it looks like their good shape actually allows them to be and the practice they do daily makes them more focused while they work, so they're like because they have a schedule, and then they have to put like their work into 8 hours, and then
Mm.
because they have to be, I don't know, like at gym, in gym at 5, so and it makes sense, because I mean I totally lost myself, reading comments somewhere and then entering some stupid discussion that, uh, uh, telling people what I think about something, and no one actually cares what I think about it, and you just waste time on typing and doing this and that. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I did for a while. I'm very much a personal routine as well, where everything I'm doing has to be done at this time or have to do that every day. But I guess exercise has taken quite like a backwards role. I mean, there's a what do you call it, stationary bike over there that's being used as a coat rack.
same thing here.
Um,
Like we have few of
yeah,
those on the balcony, so similar devices, not the bikes, but very similar device.
yeah,
So yeah, I know. But you end this call, you do 15 push-ups, you sit back to the computer and continue working, and you just repeat this every day, and then you realize, okay, I can
yeah.
do like 30,
I
so
really should. I really should get back into it. To be honest, I know it helps a lot as well with your mental health as well. Especially now you're so cooped up in home with all this quarantine stuff.
oh yeah, Tell me, you mentioned games and how they affected you. So like it's like a big generation gap between us. I'm more like your father in the sense that it's more like films that influenced me,
Mm.
you know, and the games I just see games as my enemy because I got hooked up on some of the FPS, like shooters, and at some point, we were like my friend and I was like, okay, this has to stop. We had to shut down the server because like we're spending just too much time. Well, we should be sleeping. We just playing. Stupid games. So I just don't play games. I just follow what's going on with the art. I do testing like in the game engines and that kind of stuff. I do some games of my own with my friends, work on them, but I don't play games. So I see them like really an enemy of mine. But I do understand how folks that are younger than me, the audience that comes to the IFCC, the speakers that come to the IFCC, how they're like super influenced by the games, by the character in games, by the story behind the games. I've
Mm.
seen a lot of presentation, of course, like so much effort is put in the story. They're like very often the stories in the games are like much better than what Hollywood offers in films. So
Yeah.
so,
No,
were there
it's
any movies that influenced you?
movies. Yeah, Alien. Obviously, like Geiger's stuff is such a huge influence to me. It's the movies that make you think afterwards that I really like. So I'm not too much of a fan necessarily of like kind of contemporary ones set in real life. I love sci-fi fantasy. I mean, that's probably the biggest, most common genre of artists that they love. Like everyone loves sci-fi fantasy at this point. It's something about the size and scale of it all that really interests me in creating whole new worlds that you can explore. That's the kind of games I like as well, like the MMOs. I mean, City of Heroes was the very first game I played and is the catalyst for all of this. Like where you log on and you see all this different world of all these stories happening around you. And I think from what you said, where you're talking about film and game kind of splicing together and creating its own weird, awesome like avenue of genre. It's like The Last of Us and Uncharted, how they merge cinematography and film storytelling into games. That's the stuff I love. But I'm also like you in that I don't play games a lot anymore. I mean, I love them, absolutely love them, but I don't really have the time to spare for them as much. Maybe in the last hour of my day, I'll try to play a game to like relax me. Something slow paced, nothing like Counter Strike where you'd go on just get so hyped up over it. I just can't really
I
do
mean,
that.
it can cause stress. I remember
Yeah.
we were playing. We're back on games again, but never mind. Anyways, like we were playing. I think it was like Call of Duty. I don't know which one. Anyways, there was this level that were at the sea at night, and there was like this huge tanker. And I remember and I was like, I wasn't like really a good player, but I was like, the the guy that takes a sniper rifle, and goes somewhere and put claymores on the floor everywhere around. So
You're one of them.
and yeah, and so I remember like there was this guy who was like really really good, but in this like hour of playing that level, I think I killed him like I don't know like 10 times, and from
Mm.
the same position, and he got so mad. I think that he broke his monitor because he knows that I'm not a good player, So, so this, you know, and he was like, "You're cheating." You're like I was not, I'm not cheating. Like I'm just like have this like perfect visual of you, and it's like really easy to kill you, No, not possible, So
That's the kind of rage that keeps me up at night. That like if I play Counter Strike, I just can't sleep afterwards because my heart's racing still. But I have, like you said, I have been trying to look into films a bit more with like I feel like I'm a sinful artist in that I haven't watched a lot of films that everyone keeps referencing, right? So I've only just started going through all the Studio Ghibli films. And it feels like a sin to say that because so many
Oh,
people love the
amazing!
Ghibli
I
films.
watched with
So
my kid yesterday. We watched like Totoro. So
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
watch that. I watched Spirited Away for the first time. Um, Want to watch Akira. I've never seen Akira, but I keep seeing it referenced. Um, so I feel like a bit of a sinful artist in that I don't know a lot of the films that people keep referencing. So I just need to get on that. And I have such a big backlog to go through.
Same thing with me. Films, books, even worse. But what I do, like when some popular TV show is out, like Game of Thrones and that kind of stuff. So I think I waited for like 2 years until all
Well, to
the
watch Game of Thrones.
yeah. I just like
Oh,
I
okay.
like to wait. I like everyone is talking about it, but I just don't want to know. I don't want to be sucked into this, uh, crazy energy, around me, and I just like wait for like 2 years or a year, and then I start watching, because like at that point I don't know anything, I forget about everything that people talked about and just like watching
Yeah.
it in peace. Same was with like with Breaking Bad and other shows. I just like, you know have a universe of my own, when it comes to
Yeah.
uh, choosing the right time for watching. I think it was the same with what was the name of the series, Netflix series about these kids in a red.
Stranger Things.
Yeah. Also, I
Yeah.
waited for I think a year, before I started watching it, and I was so blown away by it. It was so an emotional experience for me because all of the. I mean, I remember. I mean, actually, those kids are probably in the show. They're like probably the same age that I was at that time.
Mm.
So yeah, of course they lived in America. I live in Croatia, which is different. But we were so influenced by the American culture through films and everything.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters and that kind of stuff.
I mean,
So
TV shows are making waves now, aren't they? TV shows are becoming such a big
yeah,
medium. They're taking over. Yeah.
much better, more quality, better
You can tell a
story, better
larger story.
scenarios.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with movies, especially Hollywood production, they're kind of locked because they are pursuing this path, with satisfying, people who come to cinema to watch movie with popcorn, and so this will have to change, I think, because also I'm not a big fan of the this Marvel movies, and
Mm.
it's not that I don't like them; they're fun, but the only one I really loved was the Guardians of the Galaxy, just because it's so
Yeah.
funny, and
Yeah.
it reminds me a bit of the because it's from UK. You remember the Red Dwarf series?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I know of the Red Dwarf. That's probably
oh,
before my
okay.
time a
So
bit.
it actually reminded me of them, and this is
Yeah.
probably why I liked it because it has like a good humor inside,
Mm.
It's stupid, but when you see a raccoon talking like a man, and it has to be funny, so uh,
So is Red Dwarf another series that you get over here, over there from England?
yeah, Red Dwarf, Only Fools and Horses, that kind of stuff. Red Dwarf is like really, really good. It's, I mean, when it comes to humor, we had this uh, American humor, in shows like even in Ghostbusters you have humor in I don't know, like Groundhog Day you have humor,
Yeah.
which is like really good actually. But then you also have like this Hollywood films which where humor is like it was funny when I was a kid. For example, there was this series of films called Police Academy, and when I was a kid, I was like, it was the best thing ever, But when I grew up a bit, it was like, oh, it's not that funny.
Yeah.
Uh, but then when you have like English or British TV shows, like it's I don't know, like it's more intelligent, than the average American show. I'm not saying that Brits are more intelligent than Americans or I don't see people that way. I don't care about
Yeah,
nationalities or
it's
stuff, but just the things that they're pushing on air.
yeah.
So of course, like for example, at least for me, like Seinfeld is like it's genius, and that kind of shows. I mean, this is what I prefer at least.
Yeah, I mean, British comedy is different in that the main characters are usually a tragedy,
Yeah.
whereas the American comedies, they're usually like the hero or like they're lucky, they go lucky kind of type. But in British comedies, there's so many like tragic characters that are just they never get anything right, everything goes wrong for them, and it's like the main character is always a buffoon or someone who's just all the bad things happen to, and I think that's something that really differentiates American and British
The
comedy.
cool thing about British comedy is that it really reflects, the real life. For
Mm,
example, um like Fools and Horses, not the humor for everyone. For
yeah.
example, my wife sees it as like, okay, stupid. I mean, and not as, not so much. It's like cheap humor. That's how she sees it. But I can totally relate to it because from where I grew up, we had like a lot of those characters, like in the Fools and Horses show, only Fools and Horses, and like I could relate, because this one
Yeah.
reminded me of this guy and this one. So to me, like it was funny, So and also I really loved the show. It was called. This is this like really old. It might be even from 70s. I'm not sure. Probably 80s. Uh, yes, Prime Minister or something like that, or
Yes, Prime Minister.
Prime
Sound rings
Minister.
a bell,
Yeah,
but
it was about like a prime minister and his right hand, who gives advices and who advises him on things. It was kind of boring for a few episodes, but I didn't know what to watch, so I just watched that. But then after a while you realize this is so smart because they're actually explaining through the show how like politicians are running things, but it's literally what the show is telling you, but it's
yeah.
all camouflaged in this kind of like a comedy thing, but it's actually the same thing that they're doing like in real life, that we all get so um, stressed about. Actually they're doing it in this show, and it's like super smart, so I doubt that you even be able to find it on the internet. It's so old, but
Yeah,
maybe your dad will know.
yeah, it probably will actually. He'll probably berate me for not knowing.
So let's, of course, like we have to go back to the topic.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something about, of course, like it's important in a way, the tools that you use for your
Mm.
work currently, and is there like anything that you would like to add to your workflow? Like, are there
Yeah.
any software that like you're watching, but still didn't have time to
Yeah.
dive
I mean,
deeper?
I'm constantly working in 3D. Is always new programs coming out. I mean, you've got like stuff like Marvelous, and you got all the World Machine stuff. So I'm always looking for more programs to add to my toolbox because I think you can never have too much of a toolbox. Like you need to be able to draw different strengths and weaknesses from different programs to know when to use some. Like for instance, I prefer Blender's Boolean tools to Maya's. So if I'm working in Maya, I'll sometimes export out to Blender and then back into Maya again. Um, so the one thing I do want to learn is all the VR stuff. Like I haven't had a chance to actually get my hands on any of these gravity sketches, or you see all these really cool stuff that people are doing in
Yeah, like
VR.
medium gravity
Yeah.
sketch.
So that's something I really want to get my hands on. I just haven't had the chance really. I can't even imagine what it's like to be honest. Have you had a go of it yet?
I At the moment, I mean, I've been using Blender for a long time, but since I'm not actually doing anything for the clients, I
Mm.
work on. In past few years, I've been working like on mostly on a game project, and it's like one or two every year, and they're all like you know less known titles, so because I'm not rated really well in the art world because I just kind of it's probably motivation, so I don't push that hard, and it shows in my work. But uh, I use Blender most of the time, and because it's easiest for me to do some fast, I don't know, like animations or graphics for the IFCC, and I really like experimenting in it.
Mm.
And I use Photoshop sometimes, and but I'm trying to use the Affinity package more and more, like the Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo, to replace the Photoshop, just because it's like really a lot cheaper and it's like
Mm.
almost the same. But then Photoshop had like this, always had like this one or two tools, that it's missing, in other packages. Then I go back to it.
Yeah.
But what I really like is the iPad applications.
Oh, Procreate and stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
use
Yeah.
Procreate a
Yeah.
lot for. I was doing a lot of like 2D animation tests lately.
Yeah.
I really love it. They did it. They totally nailed it. And also Infinite Painter, I think, and Art Studio Pro or something. Right? All of them are like really, really, really good painting apps. So I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even. I don't even try to do the brush stuff in Photoshop or any desktop app. I like this so much because it's like you can go really in a bar and just take your iPad and just paint. and
Yeah. hundred
and I'm
percent. I
sure that
mean,
there are like for Android devices there are also some amazing applications which are
yeah.
available for iPad as well. So definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I had a what was it, a Cintiq companion?
Hmm.
Because when I wanted to have something to go on the go with, so I got a Cintiq companion, but it was very like quite large, and I needed the keyboard over here, and I had the it was like a whole setup that I needed to set up just to be able to paint away from my PC. That I just basically ended up making a whole nother PC somewhere else. So I sold that, and I got an iPad Pro this Christmas actually, and it's been awesome. Like the iPencil, like it's crazy. I can only imagine how far that's come because some of my colleagues used to use it ages ago, and they were astonished to see how far the program's come to this stage now. I mean, it's really intuitive to use. Like I'm still getting used to all like the three taps and the two tab and
Yeah.
then merge and stuff like that, but I can see the potential in it all.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, these tabs are like really important for the for the workflow. But if you push yourself to use it more, for example, I don't know, like maybe for the overpaints and that kind of stuff. Just just take like few days off of your from your work and just do some testings,
Yeah.
and you quickly realize that it works much better. Of course, the cool thing with the desktop is that you have like if you're doing a 3D as well, you have it there. Then you just like import and export stuff. At the moment, I think that yeah, iPad, at least iPad is it's still kind of cumbersome. It's still like complicated to import things and share.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you have to upload it somewhere on Google Drive or whatever. But it works. I mean,
yeah.
especially if you're like decide to do just a 2D.
Yeah, if you need to map out anything, like sometimes I'll use it for if I have an idea for a character
Mhm.
or I need to
Like
design
a
a
fast
piece of
sketch.
architecture. Yeah, just a really loose
Yeah.
sketch that I don't even need to show anyone. It's like a visual note for me to use that when I get back to my PC, I can then mock that up in 3D and answer certain questions that way.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely. Yeah,
so that's how
for
I've used
fast
that.
sketches, it's so good. I recently, actually, I forgot about it. I am working with my colleague on a game project. It's like a tabletop game.
Mm.
So we just started like a few weeks back, but then the quarantine came, and then we kind of stopped, which we explained to the client. So we'll continue, after the IFCC. But I just, I said to myself, okay, I'll just start doing first sketches in iPad, and then I just continued, and I managed to deliver, some of the concepts uh, from the iPad, and they really loved it, which was kind of cool because uh, I just kept this part of starting doing something in Blender, to sketch it in 3D. I just sketch it like sitting in a bar and doing my thing, and they loved it. Like I think like it's the first time in the past few years that the clients said like, "Wow, amazing!" right away.
Yeah.
From this.
Home run straight out.
Yeah, that was like, oh well, this works, and then I mean, you also have all these perspective tools which are much better than in the desktop apps. Really cool, so you actually don't need 3D because I know that a lot of guys now starts working in 3D, and ends up adding some overpaints. But this, I mean, with tools so advanced, for perspective and other tools that help you draw, you actually don't need 3D for blocking out something. It's like really fast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that we covered like most of the topics for today. This should have been so much shorter than it was. But yeah, I think we'll do another one. During the event. So,
Yeah, sure. That sounds good to me.
Because when I started the stream, when we connected, I was already so exhausted, because what happened before, and then the hour of solving the issue with the audio, and then changing the software, and then reconnected for 3 times, like a nightmare. So I totally lost the focus. Thank you so much. I hope that people who joined the event will really like the video that you've made. It's like 1 hour and 50 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah, it's quite a big one, and just try to get a lot in it, basically.
I've watched it whole, and it's really, really amazing, and definitely something to check. So
Awesome.
yeah, but as I said, like we'll be back soon in another session. So until then,
That'll be great.
I'll just stop the stream.
Awesome.
And we'll continue.